Hello friends and welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to Setup Our Dives, guys. In today's video, I'll be reacting to a video that I watched of Riley Gaines and her being in Congress and basically defending her existence, defending women's sports, defending what it means to be a woman. You know, if you would have told me this, guys, like 10 years ago, that our nation, our society would be at this point where we're like questioning the most basic aspects of of our humanity, what is a woman, I would have been like, oh, you've got to be kidding. Like society is kind of crazy, but we would never be so crazy as to question the obvious. We're too far rational, right? We're too secular. We're too much biologically driven, and this goes to say that, guys, any society that is secular is actually unsustained because at the end of the day, there's something that we have to believe in, even if it's crazy like this, where we're a woman, Riley Gaines has to go before Congress and literally defend, the fact that there are biological differences, between men and women. And essentially, guys, the reason why we're having this debate, in the underlying current of this debate, is a very much ethical, philosophical, and I would argue a spiritual kind of conversation. Because when you're saying, yeah, there are biological differences between men and women, what you're essentially saying is that there is defined absolute truth. That's an absolute truth. A man is a man and he's different than a woman, and a woman is a woman and she is different from a man. These are absolute truths, But in our postmodern society, in our relative society that has pretty much discarded God, where we've just pretty much, taken God out of the equation for many years. So here in America, we preach this, secularism, there's not really God, what happens is that we then, if there is no God, then truly, our existence is random. There is no such thing as man and woman. Everything is open to interpretation. Whatever feels like the truth to you, that's what goes. And, we celebrate that. There is no absolutes, because when you're saying, no, there are absolutes in our world, women are truly women and men are men. Those are two different things. You're saying there's absolute. And oftentimes that conversation leads towards a theological conversation that says, okay, if you're saying there are absolutes in this world, that men are designed a certain way and women are designed a certain way, there are children, there's these absolute truths, that we don't mess with. What you're saying is that, there's a fixed thing in the universe, right? There's a thing that we can't just because we feel some type of way, we can't erase it, right? So, but if you trace that question down, it brings us to the question of God. If you're arguing that there are fixed laws in the universe, where these fixed laws come from? If we have something fixed, it has to come from some fixed source, right?
I believe in women's sports. I'm the proud father of 2 daughters who are both athletes. I think participating in competitive sports is a wonderful thing for a young girl. I think it is a wonderful thing for a woman. And I think, unfortunately, today's Democrat Party has decided that women's sports and girls' sports no longer matters, and they're willing to push radical legislation designed to destroy girls' sports and women's sports. Ms. Gaines, I want to thank you for your courage. You are relatively young, but you have demonstrated incredible courage. And because you have dared to speak up, you have been demonized, you have been vilified. I saw when you were attacked by a leftist mob at San Francisco State University for daring to speak up. You had an incredible record as a swimmer at the University of Kentucky. You were a 2-time NCAA All-American. You were a 5-time SEC champion. You're an SEC record holder and a 2-time Olympic trial qualifier. But yet on March 27th, 2022, something changed. What happened on March 17th, 2022?
That's when Thomas and I raced in the 200 freestyle and again resulted in a tie.
And so you tied. What was the consequence of tying?
We went behind the awards podium where typically you're handed your trophy, you're marched out, you're named an All-American. And so we go back there and the official looks at both Thomas and myself and says, "Great job, but you guys tied. And we only have one trophy, therefore we're giving this trophy to Leah." And I question this and I say, why? And at first I shortened it in my testimony, but really he stumbled on his words. He didn't know how to answer this.
Guys, the fact that this woman has to literally defend her own existence and the existence of all the women, not just in women's sports. I think this is a conversation that is even outside of women's sports. The fact that as women, this is actually where fighting for women's rights matters. The fact that we're literally fighting for women's rights in this country. We've come so far that we went backwards. Like literally, we've gone so progressive that we've just totally went backwards. And thank God for courageous women like Riley Gaines. And I think honestly, she was made for the hour. And you know, this is probably one of first times in the whole feminist movement, right? Like this whole coerced feminist woman, when I actually think that we actually have a true feminist activist here who is truly advocating for our rights, you know? I mean, the fact that they don't even want to have these trans women in their own category. You know, like I could understand, okay, fine, you create your own category and you compete amongst each other. But to say that, you know, trans women are women and, you know, take even Christianity out of it, you know, just pure biology, it's ridiculous. The fact that we're even having this stupid conversation. It's like, did like the IQ of the whole American society just drop by like 100 points and we've just like totally lost our freaking minds? Because I don't know, you know, it makes me so livid to think that this woman literally had to be mobbed and attacked for the most common sense things, you know? And guys, the state of our culture is just insane, guys, just insane.
And at first he's, well, we're just doing this in chronological order. To which I further pressed and I said, okay, well, what are you being chronological about? Because we tied. And if we're doing this off alphabetical order, G comes before T. So what are you being chronological about? To which this wasn't a script they had prepared for him. And he actually appreciated his honesty. He did say, we have to give the trophy for Leah because Leah has to have it for pictures.
You know, the fact that they said that she has to have it, Leah has to have it for pictures. You know, this is how shallow our society has become. You know, we need it for show, you know, to appease this popular, you know, coerced narrative about trans women being women. Trans women are not women. I mean, that is just the truth. Unfortunately, that truth hurts people, but it's the truth. Trans women are men trying to be women, but will never be women, unfortunately. And no matter how much surgeries you get, no matter how much stuff you get done, and this is not hate speech. This is totally not hate speech. This is just telling you the truth, as much as that hurts. But that's just the truth, you know? It's just like you cannot overcome DNA. This is not even me just being a Christian and just talking about deeper spiritual truths. I'm just talking about just reality, you know? Our sex, our biology, who we are as people is down to our DNA. Obviously, I agree, you know, that like the way we feel maybe about our certain traits and whatnot can be different, because I don't think we're just biological creatures. I do believe that we were created to worship God. You know, we have a spirit. And I truly believe whenever we're not reconciled to God, there's this war inside of us, you know, where maybe our biology says one thing, but we feel a certain different way. I'm not saying that there's not that struggle of gender dysphoria is not real. It is a real struggle for certain people, but that at the end of the day, it's a deviation from the way God intended things to be, how God intended things to run. And whether you believe it or not doesn't matter. Whether you believe in gravity or not doesn't matter. Gravity exists. And whether you believe that there is such thing as men and women down to their biology, it doesn't matter. It's the truth. You can't go against it. You know, there's certain things, and that is something that we're fighting for, you know. And the reason for this is because God is the ultimate truth. He is the author of the universe. He created male and female in his image, but male and female, he created them. He created them with differences. And you can deny that truth all day long. It doesn't change reality. Anyway.
This trophy, but you have to give yours back. You have to go home empty-handed. Leah Thomas takes the trophy home. End of story.
Now, let me ask you, as someone who's competed at the elite level, in your experience, is there a difference between women and men?
Of course. I think we learned this at a very young age, watching even 12 and unders play. Going through puberty causes irreversible advantage, that no matter the training, no matter the diet, no matter any alterable change you can make, will overcome that male advantage. especially in sports like swimming where lung capacity matters so much. Even something as silly as throat size, men have on average a 40% larger throat, which sounds like it's nothing. But when you're grasping for air, that 40% larger throat makes a huge difference in athletic success, not to mention height. You guys know the differences.
Ms. Robinson, do you agree with Ms. Gaines that there's a difference between women and men?
If the question is about trans women...
I'm just asking, is there a difference between women and men?
What I can say is that the NCAA has rules in place. They've had rules in place for the last decade, and when this competition happened,
I'm going to try again.
The rules were clear.
Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? It's a yes-no question. Do you believe there's a difference?
Oh, I think that we're talking about this case with the NCAA.
No, I'm asking...
You know, it's unbelievable how these people, you know, who try to defend this delusion, bend forwards and backwards and sidewards to go around the truth. It's literally a yes or no question. This is painful to watch, guys. This is really, really painful to watch.
Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? Most people could answer this very simply. I'm curious if you're willing to do so.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just putting it into the context of the conversation that we're having. I think that there are definitions related to sex.
Is that a yes? So I'm trying to get a yes or no. I'm not trying to get a speech. Is there a difference between women and men?
I think that there are definitions for biological sex.
Okay, so you're not answering.
This man said, I'm not trying to get a speech. One of the quotes that I think is like, you know, if you can't explain it to like a 5-year-old, you don't understand it. Like, or, you know, if you cannot say, you know, truth is not so convoluted as they make it sound. It's a yes or no question. Can you answer? No, it's the context and blah, blah, blah. Oh my goodness, guys. The fact that our society has come to this level is just so, it's painful. It's unbelievably painful. It's just like, you know, I think about it, you know, it's like, this is what happens when society, you know, enjoys prolonged success, you know. We used to be a nation that credited our success, our prosperity to God. But now that we've turned away from God and we became these secular, postmodern, you know, materialists or whatever, you know, this is what happens. You know, we literally lose our mind. You know, that passage in Romans 1, go and read that if you have a Bible. Go to Romans 1 and literally will explain. Because we do not care to have God in mind, this is what happens to us. A great society, great prosperity, you know, we take it for granted. We become completely delusional. We become completely perverted, you know, and it's sad. It's sad because God forbid, you know, always brings upon God's judgment, you know, and I think to myself, you know, like the Chinese and the Russian, you know, like they're not confused about men and women. They're very clear in that. And America is wasting its time, you know, trying to define what a man is and what a woman is. Society that cannot define what is a man, what is a woman, I'm telling you, and I don't have to be a prophet, is doomed to fail. So either we change our ways and we repent from our delusion, or God knows what's going to come, you know?
Let me ask you this question then. Why do women's sports exist? If you can't define a difference between women and men, why not abolish women's sports and just tell little girls to swim with little boys and see who wins?
Oh, I'm simply saying that that sex is different
question,
than gender.
Why
and I do believe that women's sports have a great
exist?
Value. I mean, Senator, I'll tell you right
Ms.
now.
Robinson, please answer the question I'm asking you.
Absolutely.
Why do women's sports exist?
I think that there are so many positive benefits to sports.
But
I mean,
why have a separate category for women? If there's no difference between women and men, why to have women's sports?
I'm saying that there's a difference between sex and gender, and that the NCAA has rules in place, which they have for the last decade.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to enter into the record an article from Duke Law called Comparing Athletic Performances for the Best Elite Women to Boys and Men. And it goes through examining in 2017 the top records for women in the world in various track and field events. So, for example, in the 100-meter, the top record for women in the world was 10.71 seconds. Now, that record for the number one woman in the world in 2017 was, in the year 2017, broken by 124 boys under 18. In that same year, the record for the number one competing woman in the 100-meter dash in the world was broken by a total of 2,474 men. If the radical Democrat agenda to destroy girls' sports and women's sports succeeds, little girls will not have a chance to compete. So I ask unanimous consent that this article be entered into the record.
Without objection. Senator Padilla?
Guys, that was just painful to watch. You know, and you can see the frustration of Ted Cruz, and just like, you know, this is just so sad. You know, sometimes I think about this, I'm like, am I the crazy one? Like, do people not see the truth? I mean, it's like, is it literally so confusing? But, you know, guys, you know, this is what happens, you know, when you turn away from God, you're given over to a depraved mind, you know, and you think this is truth, you know, you call black white and white black. That's what happens. So, you know, my heart is that, you know, we as Christians might stand strong in our convictions and not let these, you know, what I think socialist and honestly these crazy ideologies. This is what happens when you allow yourself to be brainwashed, you know, and be coerced. Not, you know, when you don't have your mindset in God's truth, you're going to be swayed. You're going to be, you know, you're going to believe lies, you know, and they're going to use fear and all these things and all these other tactics, you know, to try to conform you. And, you know, this is where as Christians, you know, even if we are, you know, in minority, if we're rejected and not liked, but let us never compromise truth, because there are such things as men and there are such things as women, you know, and they're not the same because they were created by God, and they're not random things. They were created in the image of God. And people, and I'm sorry, even if people don't like to hear that, that remains the truth. You know, gravity exists no matter how you feel about it. So men and women will be men and women. They will have their biological differences because they're created by God, and we're not the author. We didn't come up with this. We're not the designers. And it's our human arrogance to ever think that we own the truth when we don't. The only thing we can do is to allow the truth to set us free. All right, guys, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.